Hello, sports fans. This is the Bookmaker Podcast with Art Eftekhari, a.k.a. Mr. Bookmaker, your source for the sports betting industry 24/7. Sit back, relax, and listen as Mr. Bookmaker highlights what's happening right now in the world of sports. So, without further ado, here's your host, Art Eftekhari.
All right, everybody, welcome back to another edition of the Bookmaker Podcast. I'm your host, Art Eftekhari. Glad you're back with us. Before we begin, you know the routine. Check out our website. You know the address. It's bookmakerinfo.com. It's www.bookmaker-info.com. We got the Bookmaker 101 Basics, steps on how to register, bet, and withdraw. Don't forget about our Bookmaker Guide, as well as our betting picks, strategies, and tips. And of course, you know you gotta love the A to Z sports betting lingo. And while we're on the topic of A to Z sports betting lingo, our concept of the day is wise guy. Now, what is a wise guy? Well, I'm sure you all have an idea of what you think it is, but in bookmaking terms, a wise guy is a well-informed bettor or handicapper, also known as a sharp. So those of you out there who are the masters at this entire online betting, I'm sure you are a wise guy. Alright, first thing is first, get yourself to bet365.com to see what's going on in the Chinese Super League. A lot of fixtures going on this weekend, starting on Friday, the 28th of July. Henan Jianyes hosting Beijing Guoan. Odds here show 2-1 for Henan, 9-4 for a draw, and 11-8 for Beijing Guoan. On the next day, Saturday, the 29th of July, Yanbian Fude Football Club will be hosting Tianjin Huanjian. Odds here show 13-2 for Yanbian, 16-5 for a draw, and 4-9 for Tianjin. Also on that same day, you got Chongqing Lifan hosting Jiangsu Suning. Odds here show 11-5 for Chongqing Lifan, 12-5 for a draw, and 6-5 for Jiangsu Suning. Next, a very important matchup for all those Guangzhou Evergrande fans, Evergrande. This is actually Guangzhou RNF hosting Guangzhou Evergrande. Odds here show 3-1 for Guangzhou RNF, 13-5 for a draw, and 17-20 for Guangzhou Evergrande. Also on that same day, Shanghai Shenhua will be hosting Hebei. Odds here show 6-5 for Shanghai, 12-5 for a draw, and 11-5 for Hebei. Then on Sunday, the 30th of July, there are only two matches that day. You got Liaoning Hongyun hosting Changchun Yatai. Odds here show 5-6 for Liaoning, 5-2 for a draw, and 5-2 for Changchun. And the last fixture of the day, last but not least, of course, let me correct myself there, Shandong Luneng hosting Shanghai SIPG. Yes, Shanghai SIPG, one of the favorites as always. 13-8 here for Shandong, 23-10 for a draw, 8-5 for Shanghai SIPG. And when I'm looking at the table of the Chinese Super League, no surprise, you still have Guangzhou Evergrande on top with 41 points, but Shanghai SIPG only trails them by 1. They have 40 points. Should be an exciting finish to the Chinese Super League. I don't think anyone's going to catch Shanghai SIPG or Guangzhou Evergrande. So, for those of you wise guys out there, if you want to go with the favorites, go with the top two teams I just mentioned. Next, here I am surfing the web. I've decided to go to SBOBET.com. That's www.sbobet.com. And I want to see what's going on first with the J-League, the top flight of football in Japan. Let's take a look at some of the marquee matchups this coming weekend on Saturday, the 29th of July. First, you got the Kashima Antlers hosting Ventforet Kofu. Payout here shows 1.36 for Kashima, 4.30 for a draw, 9.25 for Ventforet Kofu. Kashima Antlers heavily favored, not a surprise, they are second in the table right now. Next, you got Kawasaki Frontale hosting Jubilo Iwata. Payout here shows 1.62 for Kawasaki Frontale, 3.90 for a draw, and 4.80 for Jubilo. After that, you got Yokohama hosting Shimizu S-Pulse. Payout here shows 2.12 for Yokohama, 3.25 for a draw, and 3.35 for Shimizu. Next, I guess you would call this the Osaka Derby. Gamba Osaka hosting Cerezo Osaka. Payout here shows 2.57 for Gamba, 3.05 for a draw, and 2.76 for Cerezo Osaka. Cerezo Osaka currently top of the table with 41 points. Gamba Osaka 6th in the table with 32 points. I think that'll be a very entertaining one. Also on that same day, you got Visei Kobe hosting Omiya Ardija. What does the payout show? 1.88 for Visei Kobe, 3.40 for a draw, and 3.95 for Omiya. That is for the J-League on SBOBET.com. Next, let's see what's going on in the Russian Premier League. Got some marquee matchups going on that same day, Saturday, the 29th of July. First, you got CSKA Moscow hosting SKA Khabarovsk. 1.19 for CSKA Moscow, 7.40 for a draw, and 9.75 for Khabarovsk. Definitely the heavy underdogs there, but you never know what could happen. But for those of you wise guys, or those of you chalk eaters who go for the favorites, well, first of all, if you're a chalk eater, you go for the favorite. If you're a wise guy, you're an expert. Never mind, moving on. Those of you who want to go for the favorites, CSKA Moscow is always the safe bet, especially when they're playing at home. Next, you got Ural hosting FC Ufa. What does the payout show? 2.68 for Ural, 2.83 for a draw, and 2.83 for FC Ufa. Very, very close one there. Basically like a pick'em. Next, Rubin Kazan will be hosting Arsenal Tula. The payout is 1.63 for Rubin Kazan, 3.65 for a draw, and 5.20 for Arsenal Tula. And the other matchup on that day, the team that's formerly known as Terek Grozny is now known as Akhmat Grozny. They'll be hosting Dynamo Moscow. Payout here shows 2.19 for Akhmat Grozny, 3.05 for a draw, and 3.40 for Dynamo Moscow. So that's it there for the Russian Premier League and SBOBET. You know the address, www.sbobet.com. And before we continue, make sure you check out our website. You know the address, bookmakerinfo.com. That's www.bookmaker-info.com. On our website, you have easy access to the Bookmaker 101 Basics. That includes steps on how to register, bet, and withdraw. Our Bookmaker Guide is available to download. Read through it at least 2 or 3 times. Remember, I want you to become an expert on this whole entire online sports betting process. And remember, we have betting strategies, tips. Don't forget about our A to Z sports betting lingo. Remember, you may not sound like an expert just yet, but keep on listening to the Bookmaker Podcast. Check out our website, and you'll be good to go. All right, and for you soccer or football fans, like I've said, depending on where you are in the world, for those of you fans who live far away from your favorite teams, well, if you're on the East Coast in the United States this coming weekend, then it is your lucky weekend. And that is because the International Champions Cup continues. On the 29th of July, at Miami Gardens in Florida, you have Real Madrid against Barcelona. And I'm on 10bet.com to see what the payout here shows. 2.55 for Real Madrid, 3.55 for a draw, and 2.60 for Barcelona. I'm sure that'll be a good game. Don't miss it. Then the next day, on the 30th of July, at Foxborough Stadium in Massachusetts, this is a battle of some very famous Italian clubs. You got Roma against Juventus. Payout here shows 3.30 for Roma, 3.50 for a draw, 2.15 for Juventus. Remember, Juventus did make it to the Champions League final, so no surprise they are favored there. So like I said, get yourself to 10bet.com. That's www.10bet.com. Alright, and if you recognize the music I just played, that is the French national anthem, and that is because on Saturday, the 29th of July, you have the match known as the Trophée des Champions, or let's just call it the French Super Cup. That'll be contested between Monaco and Paris Saint-Germain. That'll take place at the Grand Stade de Tanger in Morocco. Wow, talk about excitement. Two of the best French teams going at it in Morocco. I think I'll try and watch that. And for that, I have gone full circle, and I am back at bet365.com. What's the payout here showing? For Paris Saint-Germain, shows 10-3, 3-1 for a draw, 7-10 for Monaco. They are obviously the favorites. When you talk about some of the star players on each team, with Paris Saint-Germain, you got Brazilian footballers such as Thiago Silva and Marquinhos. But what about for Monaco? Led by captain from Colombia, Falcao. You know him by his full name, Radamel Falcao. I think it'll be a very entertaining match, but I gotta go with Monaco. I think they'll come out on top. Alright, everybody, and that is it for this edition of the Bookmaker Podcast. Really glad you're able to join us again. Make sure you tune in next time. Don't forget to check out our website. You know the address, bookmakerinfo.com. That's www.bookmakerinfo.com. Don't forget about our Bookmaker Guide and our A to Z sports betting lingo. Remember, the more and more you read our Bookmaker Guide and the more you become familiar with our sports betting lingo, the more and more I see you becoming a wise guy. Thank you for listening. Have a good weekend.
This has been the Bookmaker Podcast with Art Eftekhari, a.k.a. Mr. Bookmaker. Thanks for listening. If you haven't already, please show some love by subscribing to this podcast on iTunes or Stitcher. Till next time, this is Mr. Bookmaker, over and out.